What would you say if I told you that a sleep-deprived guy in his room figured out how to turn a game like this into something more fun, and how a few small changes caused people to play it a lot more for longer? In these videos, I'm going to show you the main techniques I used when I was making Moments, why I needed it, and what I learned, so that you can do the same for your game. So let's have some fun, because all of this started when I realized I was making a really big mistake. Back in early 22, I was walking around with the latest build of Moments on my phone, and I did this so I could let people try it and get their opinion on it, because I wanted to make a good game, and to me that meant figuring out what other people think is good. And this was fine for getting an initial feel of what people thought about the game. People gave me lots of good advice: add in trails, get rid of lives, stop making me revisit old levels. All of this came from general conversation. But after I started to add more levels and create more challenging puzzles, this didn't work out so well. Because normal people are generally nice and don't like to say bad things about something you've made. Some people genuinely find it hard to give really critical feedback in person. And no matter how much you say you just want to know their feelings, they're just not going to be comfortable telling you that. Engineers, on the other hand, you better brace yourself. Everything I said about nice people and not hurt feelings, forget it. You're dealing with a different animal now. You navigate these waters by getting ahead of the wave. Get your excuses in early. All your, it's not quite finished, and I know the art is bad. Push, shove, go all in, because your feelings are about to get folded. Either way, I learned that I had to become more aware of who I was talking to, because people are different. They have different experiences and expectations, and they express themselves differently. And even with that, they might not even know what it is they like or don't like. For example, if you play the first 20 levels of Moments, there's going to be a thing that you're going to notice that will frustrate you. Now, this isn't an accident, it's part of the game. You're going to notice it, and you're going to be able to articulate exactly what that thing is. Now, most people who've played my game have told me it's a good game, but when I ask what they like about it, they find it really hard to tell me. Now, I get some general feedback about art and music and gameplay, but I started to notice that all the feedback I get about what's good is general, but all the feedback I get about what's bad is specific. I was becoming way less confident in my old decisions because I changed the game so much to fix what I thought was wrong with it. But two things happened really close together that changed my perspective on all of this stuff. One day I handed my phone over to a friend. They played like 2 levels, handed my phone back to me, said it was a good game, and continued doing what they were doing before. This all happened inside like 30 seconds. But that's good feedback. What I mean is, I don't think they liked the game, but it was clear that they didn't like it. A few weeks later I was in a restaurant and I'd made some improvements to the game, and I handed it over to another friend of mine who'd never played it before. I watched him play it for 3 or 4 minutes straight, like he really played it. He got sucked in. That's good feedback. I started to realise I should be less focused on what people say and more focused on what they do. Because I'm trying to use a lot of non-verbal communication in my game so I can practice my game design, that means every now and again someone's going to get stuck for a second. And if someone gets stuck on something when I'm right beside them, it's just too easy for them to ask me a question. And because I have to answer, that doesn't help me tune my puzzles. I cannot emphasize enough what a knob you're going to sound like if you try to explain to somebody who's playing your game that you can't help them when they're stuck because you're practicing your non-verbal game design techniques. Trust me, that does not help. They will get annoyed at you, they won't want to play your game, and you're not going to get any good information out of that. I had to figure out how to get people to play my game in their own time when I'm not around. After a bit of research, I decided to use the Play Store's closed testing. That means people can download my game and play it in their own time at home on their phones. So I added a logging system to the game that will collect the moves that the player did, save them to a file, and then I just get the players to send me that log file back. I spent hours trying to get this code working in my game because my game wasn't built with this in mind originally, so it took a lot of refactoring to get it to work. And after about a week or 2, I had it working. But then something happened. After I put the kids to bed one night, I managed to scratch out about 2 hours of dev time to myself. I came into my room, I sat in my chair, and I started playing the game. But I noticed it wasn't what I remembered from the night before. I panicked. I restarted it. I couldn't see any of the changes I made. I checked the Git logs. There was no file changes. There was nothing stashed. All of my work was gone. Now look, I'm a professional programmer, and I've been doing this job as a professional for about 10 years now. There is no way that while working on a feature like this that I would go 2 weeks without making a single commit and then accidentally, reset my branch. Now I'm sure there's a lot of really smart people maintaining Git, and I don't want this video to turn into another programmer giving out about the tools he's used. but at the same time, I have to ask the question, what actually happened here? It's fairies. That's right, I said it, and I don't mean your princess fairy tale fairies. I mean real fairies, Irish fairies. For thousands of years, they roam the countryside, and if you look at them wrong, they'll come into your house when you're supposed to be at mass, they'll compromise your security, they'll find your game and get rid of exactly 2 weeks worth of work, and they'll cover their tracks with a heap of git commands to bring you into disrepute with your colleagues. And what's Git doing about this? What are they doing about it? I'll tell you what they're doing about it. Nothing. Lads, take the fingers out, get click-clacking on those keyboards, take some responsibility, and sort this problem out. The rest of you, mind the fairies. But once I redid my work, it was all worth it. This was the best thing I ever did. This was the main way I gathered data from testers for months. And it worked. Like, it worked so well. I get this is kind of a long video to say, hey, I put in a logging system. But these logs are really useful because they let me improve my game design, and because I'm trying to use a lot of non-verbal communication in my game, I want to see what people's initial reaction is to the puzzles. And the logs clearly tell me when somebody first saw a puzzle. I could use these logs to view stats on how people played my game over a period of time. I had a way to use these to automate my game with them so that I could watch what the player did. I was able to identify problems in levels, fix them, push them out to a completely new set of players, and watch them get a little bit further. I knew what levels people liked. I could see them playing with the movement mechanics. Each iteration of the game, I could see people playing it more and more, getting further and further. After reviewing the logs, I can now ask the player some actual good questions because I've seen how they play it when I'm not there. So when I suspect they don't understand something, I can just ask them about it. There's no mystery. Having the player have to go through the trouble of recording their screen, it's an extra manual step, whereas the logs are running automatically. They're less error prone. There's some errors. I mean, there's errors in other places, like, you know, I mean, there's errors and bugs in other places, but, like, you know, that's my problem. That's my problem. I did that. Now, I'm definitely not saying video doesn't have its uses. It definitely does, and it is really helpful. But you can't always guarantee that the screen recording is accurate. Because I've had cases where people have sent me video footage telling me that this is the first time they've seen a puzzle, but my logs are telling me otherwise. And because of what I'm trying to do here, it's really important that I see somebody's initial reaction to the puzzle. Because at the end of the day, you will always care more about what you're doing than other people, and they're not always going to do things exactly the way you want, so you need to have contingencies in there, and that's where the logs are valuable. In the next few videos, I'm going to show you how I use the logs and all of this data to make design improvements to my game so people play it more. Because at the end of the day, I don't know how else to know if I've made a good game other than people play it more than they used to.